and welcome to OzLoL Podcast, the first one of 2016. We're at episode 113. My name's Carrick Glasses. I am back after a long absence. Thanks to Victor, I'm guessing, led the way with the Christmas episode. And we're going to talk this week about the OPL in particular, and also some of the changes that happened with Shen, and we've got Jin, and there's other stuff as well. And to help you with that, I have got excellent people. We've got Wombat.
G'day, guys.
We've got Smite.
Hello, everyone.
And we've got Pixie.
It feels good to be lost.
Yeah. And for the benefit of the people watching the video, Pixie is the one with Tom Hanks, and I'm the one with Tommy Lee Jones.
He asked me, it was like, what's an actor you like? And I was just overwhelmed.
Yeah.
So I picked Tom Hanks
I'll see if I can.
because he makes me feel safe.
Yeah, everybody loves Tom Hanks. He's like a cuddly.
He's like
actor.
your dad.
he is like a dad.
He's just, yeah, best dad actor.
I'll send you a link for the picture I used. It's a very good picture. You'll be proud. Okay. There's showing you. This is going to be a pretty shambolic episode. We're really not organised for the start of the year. I've moved house.
Oh, don't tell them that. Fuck.
I'm just letting them know in advance.
You just gotta,
If it feels like we're not organised, we're not organised.
We might
Okay.
get away with it. We
Let's
might
start.
wing it.
Yeah, well, now you've just shot us completely in the foot. We could have got away with it before, but now everyone knows.
You really can't. Okay, let's talk about OPL. So we've had the first day, which I guess we won't talk about till sort of next week when we've seen the whole week. But Direwolves played the Infernum.
Yep.
Which
Who
is
were previously
formerly
known as Absolute.
Yep. Okay. I was wondering where they were in the little document thing.
Yeah.
Haven't put them in there. So let's talk about.
Take them out from the document. Thank you very much.
Okay.
I took them out.
Let's talk about some of the changes that have happened to rosters over the break. There's been quite a few. We will try and get through them all. So let's. Well, Pixie, why don't you lead the way since you actually wrote a little document about it?
Oh, I just translated what Smite was telling me into document form. There's been quite a few big ones from what has been the top contender teams. So Legacy, Minky has now moved to coaching, and Telly, who started in top lane and then moved to AD, is now back to top lane, and they now have King from Direwolves as their AD. So that's the rundown of them. So really it's been more like moving talent around. They haven't brought in anyone like totally new to the scene or anything.
I mean,
Yeah.
like, I guess this is going into what happened with Direwolves, but I honestly don't know why you'd let go of King. Like, he was seen pretty much universally in my from what I could tell as being the second best AD carry in OPL. And
Maybe it wasn't up to it wasn't up to Direwolves. Maybe
Well,
King
yeah, I guess
wanted
so.
to go.
That's true.
or
Fair point.
contract expired, got a better offer. Could be all sorts of things. But I think with this, Legacy look just that much better. And I also think having a slightly more dedicated coach will be quite big for them. Because Minky is probably one of their more switched on players about analyzing gameplay. So I think that'll end up being a really powerful tool for them.
We got to see some of that analysis in the OPL tonight.
Oh my god, we're not going to talk about that analysis.
Maybe,
He needed to rub his hands together more. That's what all the casters do.
Yeah.
They rub their hands together like supervillains, and that's
Yeah,
how they
so
get-
just to catch everyone up, Minky Whale on the OPL, he was one of the guests on the analyst desk. And while
I
he's a
don't
very
wanna
smart player and he says
Yeah.
all the right words, he's not a presenter.
no.
Yeah, it
Well,
has-
Well, it was his first time.
Yeah,
No, well, yeah,
No,
definitely-
he's
definitely-
been
no,
on there
he's been
lots.
on there before, and I think I don't think the microphone he had was as good as what the other guys were wearing.
They
so
turned
that
him, they had to turn him up. They had to turn him up after a little bit, and there were also a
Yeah.
couple of times. I think he was hearing. So when you're on those comms, for those of you who don't know, you also have the PCR, which is where like the director is basically doing all the commands to keep the show running. Okay, cut to this camera, okay, going over to this thing in 3 minutes, okay, cutting to this person, let's put their name up on the screen and all that shit. So you're also hearing that in your headset while you're like doing the presenting, and there are a couple of times where he would like start talking, then kind of like look around left and right, and then start again. And I think he was just getting thrown off by that sort of stuff as well. So
And he also, I mean, to be fair,
said, yeah,
you could have just had a bad day as well. You know, if you're tired or whatever, like it's hard to be full of personality when you're not like 100%. So
yeah, like it's honestly an environment that not everyone is going to feel comfortable in, no matter how you try. But honestly, props to him for still doing it anyway, because like you said, it's not the first time he's done it, and it's not the first time he's come across as a little uncharismatic. So I think it's good that he's still doing it. And he, like Matt said, he said the right words.
Everything that he said was quite good.
Yeah, he just didn't say it very well.
Yeah, so
anyway, let's get back onto the thing that actually matters, which is the current setup.
Sorry, Minky.
But yeah, let's talk about Legacy. So they've also picked up Strawbella, because Chuffer was support, correct? If I'm remembering correctly. So Strawbella's there. She was formerly of. Oh, now one of the.
Absolute.
Was it Absolute? Yeah, that's what.
Was it Absolute? I think it was one of the challenge teams. Or
half Mattress. No, she played with Mattress. Like they subbed in between the two of them.
Yeah.
Right. No. Yeah. That's right.
I'm really liking. Yeah, still got Choo Choo's in the middle. Still got Carbon in the jungle. Tally was. I mean, he was good on the top lane when Minky first left the team. So I reckon they're probably looking pretty damn good right now, Legacy. So what does everybody think about their perspective?
I think they did probably one of the best in the roster swaps over the preseason. Like I think they're looking really strong. Chiefs as well, and we'll get to them later, did pretty well. But I think if anyone's going to dethrone Chiefs from, the top team in the OPL this season, it's probably going to be Legacy.
Trident.
I mean, they've always been. Look, just because we have a friend in Trident doesn't mean we can just say that they're going to win.
Fuck! Stop giving the viewers all our secrets, guys.
But I mean, with that being said, Carrot, I feel like Strawbella maybe is one of their weaker pickups because obviously Absolute was one of the bottom teams, almost getting relegated, and I think she's got a reasonably small champion pool. Plays a lot of defensive supports like your Jannas and your Lulus. Doesn't play those like more aggressive supports as often.
Which are getting really popular right now, like your Trundle, your Alistair.
But maybe, I mean, these guys they practice well. Like we saw them practice well leading up to the finals at the end of last year. So if they're in a gaming house and they're practicing, like they'll all be up to speed, I think.
Yeah, the thing I always find interesting as well about Legacy is in their players, I mean, they look for an element of mechanical proficiency, certainly, but this is something that really sort of started getting into their heads when they went to Wildcard. They really started to put a lot of emphasis on bringing up team play, so I think they put a lot on basically how well they feel players actually play together. So obviously, even if Strawbella was on one of the lower teams, they obviously feel like maybe it's just the sheer personality or the way she interacts with their shot calling. Like they feel like that's really the pickup. So they've taken a little while to really start to execute that whole good players, great team kind of setup. But they've consistently moved towards it. And like I said before, I think Minky going into a coaching role will really, really help that. I can see them being easily stronger than Chiefs this season, in fact.
Yeah, no, I'd have to agree.
Yeah. All right, well, let's talk about Chiefs since you mentioned them. So, the Chiefs, let me find where they are. So they had a move. Swiffer has left. The OPL article that talked about it says he's gone on a sabbatical. So it's not like he's sort of going to turn up on somebody else's team, but he's gone for the time being. He's gone to Europe, and he's been replaced by Cheese, formerly of Team Immunity. Now, Hellions. So, what do we reckon of that?
Well, losing Swiffer's not going to be good in any sense.
No.
And Swiffer did a lot of shot calling for the Chiefs as well.
Yeah.
So, again, like, it's kind of a double whammy there with losing him. I mean, Cheese, he's a good player. He's a good mid laner. So, like, it's still a good pickup. they're still getting something good, but I think it's going to be like it says in the article. It's going to be all on Spooks to step up, fill that shot calling role, but he also kind of he lost his mid lane buddy that he camped for a lot. So
Yeah.
it's going to be like I'm not sure like where they're going to start funneling their attention. Whether they're going to keep it in the mid lane, maybe take it into one of the other lanes.
Yeah, I think it's unfair on Cheese to say that this is a step down. Mechanically, at least, it's I guess a step sideways. But you're dead right. Like they're gonna have to really look at how they sort out shot calling, and I could see them putting it onto Spooks a bit more. I could also see them trying to bring up Ejim even further in really just being their main shot caller. But you're also right in that Spooks doesn't have the guy he used to camp for. They do have to change how they approach the game as a whole. But it does say a lot about how good they are just as a team, that was a viable strategy that had them going like what they went, did they go almost undefeated or completely undefeated last split?
Undefeated except for one.
They lost to like
in the
the Fortnite
finals.
or something.
One game, yeah. So which we'll just forget about. Like they're still a really good team. And Cheese is still mechanically good. There's every chance they'll be able to adapt that strategy to this new roster as well. Like, we put a lot of emphasis on Swiffer, but I don't think Chiefs are just inherently, hamstrung because of his loss, though it is a very significant one.
Yeah,
It's gonna be all about like how
I
much
feel
they
like-
practice, and well, get to the teams that actually have gaming houses.
Yeah, definitely.
I feel like the Chiefs. I mean, Swift is obviously he's a good player, but compared to all the other teams, they actually have the least of the roster swaps. Only one player changing. So if any team can take it in their stride and get the one player up to, in these guys' case, only one player up to scratch, the Chiefs should be able to do it, and they've done it before with Ejim as well. So,
and I mean, let's be real. Like Cheese is not a bad pickup for a mid laner. I mean, essentially Chiefs are in the position where they pretty much, if they want to do, like we saw with Ejim, they can take from the best. And Cheese is a really experienced player. Like he's been around for a long time. He does have has had some issues. I mean, certainly towards the end of. What was going on with Immunity was just a bit of a mess anyway. So
Yeah.
like I don't. That's not
It's hard
entirely
to
on
really
him.
examine them from that time, certainly.
Yeah. But yeah, I think it's hard to think of another player they could pick up aside from like Choo Choo's or somebody who's like well established in one of the other top teams. It's hard to think of anybody else that you could really take that's going to have the sort of experience that you really want in that lineup. And I guess it's also, I mean, there's the aspect that eventually, Chiefs are going to need to find new players. Like it's going to get to the point where some of these players are going to start to leave, and because they get proper jobs, or they get too old. They start to get outclassed.
Jobs.
Well, yeah.
Carrot.
So it's one of those things where there will be a time where Chiefs will be different, and so I guess that we, seeing how they handle that transition is going to be a big part of like establishing their legacy as a proper team within the Oceanic League of Legends scene. Cool. All right. Let's talk about
Direwolves.
Direwolves. Yeah. So
We
Chuffer.
did Direwolves, didn't we?
We kind of did. Yeah.
Like, sort of.
It's the first one you did. But anyway, all right, we'll continue.
Well, just so we've already mentioned how King has gone to Legacy, and Chuffer has.
Gonzo.
Yeah. No.
He's gone, so yeah.
Hang on.
By the way, every single one of the teams currently has Chopper
Yeah, okay.
gone written by them.
You're confusing
you're
me.
the worst.
So-
You're the worst, Pixie.
Yeah.
You're the worst.
So it was King has gone, and they've replaced him with Raze.
We used to be
Formerly
called
known as
Zeratul.
Zeratul.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
From Villains?
Yeah. So I think he was playing
Yes, he's like
mid
his-
lane.
Yeah.
Was for villains, yeah.
But in any case, so for those of you who don't know, Villains are a New Zealand team who have just finished like their 8th tournament undefeated. They haven't been able to go for OCS and OPL because of age restrictions, but they're about as tried and tested as you can get while
Yeah.
not actually being an OPL team. So
And
he raises someone with a boatload of experience.
yeah, that's another thing that should probably bring up, and it could be into the reason of like why Direwolves don't have King anymore is because Ray's like literally just turned old enough to compete in the
Yeah.
OVL, and they've wanted him for
Right.
ages. So
Okay,
probably why they're getting him in.
fair enough. That would make a lot of sense.
It would.
He's got to be.
No, but he's a great mechanical player. Although I know we weren't going to talk about tonight's games till later, but he showed a little bit of shakiness during, I guess, certain sieges.
So-
Like he would just
so
slip
like you
up and
said-
get caught.
Yeah, like you said, though, this is a guy who's like just turned old enough to play professionally, and this is his first game of it. So you can understand a bit of nerves, I guess.
Maybe, but still, I mean, he was on live television for it in New Zealand, so
Yeah.
it's only so much nerves you
Yeah.
can have.
Now Fantix, I'm just trying to remember what Fantix's name was before because I know he changed it.
Perfection, wasn't it?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. All right. Yeah. I mean,
I love that these name changes. Seriously.
Yeah. They should
guys
re-
in the
I
OPL,
don't know
stop
who anyone
changing
is.
your bloody names. It's confusing.
That's why Chuffer has gone from everyone's team, because we don't know who they used to be anyway. Like, it might as well have been fucking Chuffer.
do you guys know anything about? Is it Kuden or Kuden? The
Kuden,
support?
Not.
I haven't heard of him
actually.
at all.
I know a lot about cumin
Yeah.
and its uses in culinary arts.
Sure. Yeah.
Well,
And
tell
I
us
have,
about that.
Yeah,
tell us
tell-
I
about
have not
that.
Yeah.
tried to. I have not tried to crush and grind up Kuden to season meat in curries yet. But I'm willing to try it if he is.
Maybe you could just see if a jar of cumin would do a better job than Kuden in the OVL.
Yeah,
like
just set some
Yeah.
some little cumin shakers.
Yeah. There you go. You heard it here first.
Well, I guess you could say he's a seasoned player.
Oh,
He might not be. I have
Check
no
out
idea.
Deb
I
Jones.
don't
Alright,
know
well,
who-
okay, look, we'll put it this way. He doesn't have a page on Esportspedia, so
Okay.
it can't be that big.
Yeah, you can't. You're really not somebody until you got an esportspedia.
I went, I guess I'll bring this up and we'll move it into talking about Hellions because it's one of
Yeah.
the players there. But I went to Pac-Man's page because I know that guy. Oh, not Hellions, sorry. Trident. I went to Pac-Man's page on Esportspedia because I thought, like, wow, I know this guy in real life, and he's got a page. The only thing it says about him is that he plays left-handed,
He plays left-handed.
which I didn't know.
Fuck, that's interesting.
Like his
Yeah.
mouse is with his
Wait,
left
if
hand.
you and I didn't know, then who knew that to put it up there?
Apparently, they like Esportspedia send you out a form and you fill it out. And he was like, I probably could have told them anything, and they would have just put it on the page.
Plays with his dick.
Yeah.
It's like slaps it against the keyboard.
Yeah. He
Yeah.
can't. He can never play live because
yeah.
it would be inappropriate.
And if he gets a boner, like it's game over.
But that's how they know
This
that he's
is
left-handed.
weird.
This is
Yeah. Do we want to talk about Trident then?
Yeah, let's talk about
guys?
Trident.
yeah.
So
Because of course they were the center of a bit of controversy. Well, not major controversy, but Claire got banned last season for this
dick.
first. Yeah, for this first split, banned for
Actually, for
boosting
boosting.
like a moron. I've heard through the grapevine, Pac-Man, that Trident's management had a good stern talking to for Claire. BMA has left his job at Riot Games and has gone back to playing the game, and he has been picked up as their new mid laner. Also, Chuffer is gone.
yes.
And also the guy, because Trident used to be Legacy Genesis.
Legacy-
It was like the
yeah.
little baby Legacy team in the Challenger series. And at the end of the Challenger series, their support then isn't playing now, and so they've picked up Jake as well. And so the other three, Pac-Man, Impaired, and Edition, were on the team during Legacy Genesis. So they've still got a whole lot of synergy there as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. No offense
There are-
to your friend Pac-Man, but Claire was their superstar, so it'll be interesting to see how these
absolutely,
guys go.
yeah. Well, that's the thing. Like, it's hard to look at them right now because no, I don't mean like, oh, they're so ugly. I mean, like, it's hard to look at them and work out how good they're going to be because they lost Claire, who, like you said, was their superstar player. Though
Luckily,
Pac-Man did play very incredibly during their qualifying series, and he's also their shot caller. So we're going to have to see how well BMA fills Claire's shoes, and how impactful his loss is, given that they've kept the shot caller. Like, this isn't like losing Swiffer, for example.
Right.
yeah,
Fair
even if it is like the mechanical star of the team.
Yeah. Yeah,
Pac-Man's like kind of the Rock, I guess. I guess he'd be the Rock, wouldn't he? Being
I
a
don't know.
shot caller.
He doesn't play
Yeah,
much
back me up.
Malphite.
Just say yes.
Yes.
Yep, for sure,
He
definitely,
doesn't play
100%.
Malphite. I don't
Yes,
think,
yes,
so.
dear.
Okay. Well, anyway, no, I think Trident can make it big. I think it sort of depends on how much they're practicing, though, because obviously being the new team, you've got a lot to prove. But they do have a lot of talent,
Yeah.
and it's not like they're just a bunch of players put together for a new team. At least 3 of them have played a lot together, and hopefully they've been practicing within you mid laner and support. And as well, if they can avoid being relegated in Split 1, then they get Claire
get
back in
Claire
Split
back.
2.
Well, and that's the curious thing. So I mean, BMA, like I remember him playing for NV, but he was a jungler, and he hasn't played for a year and a half at a professional level. So I guess it's one of those things. I'll be interested to see how he goes. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, it's
definitely.
it's an open question, I guess. All right, well let's talk about.
By the way, speaking of Trident, they are up against Chiefs this week. So they're the first fighting for the belt.
The belt.
And I
They
am
call it
just
the
going to be
belt.
calling it the belt for short, honestly.
Yeah, it probably makes sense. They should actually get them a belt though, like a proper wrestling belt.
Yeah, that'd be
awesome.
rad.
Yeah.
Little Hellions,
Yes.
kids stealing rebellers, embarrassed the parents still listening to Elvis.
Okay, I don't even know what that's about.
I didn't know the
What
lyric
do
was
you
Hellions.
even
I thought it
say?
was little aliens.
So Hellions
Makes
are
total
the
sense.
team that used to be Immunity before
Yeah.
Immunity got banned from owning a
What a
team.
good team.
Yeah. I'm sorry, we've got to read this one out. Whoever does this one, you got to read this one out.
The OPL article thing.
No.
What, the players?
No, the notes on Hellions on the dock.
Pixie thinks he's so
Okay.
funny with his notes.
Yeah.
I am, alright.
So
I'm
apparently Hellions has lost T-Gun and they've looked everywhere and they can't find him.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
also Chopper is gone.
He also
Because
chose,
that's on every team note.
yeah.
So I guess the big thing about Hellions is they're the first Oceanic team to import Koreans.
Yeah.
So they
Well, there was Nada and who was he with at the time?
Skywolf.
I think Keen is also a Korean citizen. Just
Well,
fucking.
look,
I mean,
wait,
he's
but
not here
this,
anymore. But
this is
He wasn't imported for that. Was anyone? So are you saying these guys imported them to play?
yes,
in
they
the
literally
OPL?
Yeah.
came out
Yeah.
of the Korean solo queue ladder.
Yeah.
It's Cookie and Bomb. So Cookie's the jungler and Bomb is the mid laner. It's not like these guys have played for like on OGN teams or anything. It's not like they're any kind of superstars. Like they might have been subs for like B teams or something. But
Yeah.
I think the main reason that they got picked up was just because of their solo queue prowess. But yeah, no, that's probably one of the most interesting roster pickups over the preseason. Mostly just because, one, at least the OPL article said it's the first time that this has happened, getting like importing Koreans into a team like other big boy
Yeah,
regions.
for sure. It's not the first time a Korean's played on an OPL team, but it is
Yes,
the first
well,
time we've
yeah,
imported
yeah.
one.
Yes, Koreans have played, but they haven't been like
Yeah.
literally taken away from their hometown to play in Australia. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes. Hopefully there aren't too many language barriers there because that's definitely a problem.
Yeah. I mean,
there is going to be a massive problem because even if they're fucking fluent in English, they're going to be sitting there like, "Do we dragon?" and the rest of the team's going to be like, "Oh yeah, well, what up?"
good point. Firstly, Australians can't use the English language properly.
And I hear they over in your country as well. They call them the Esky ghosts now.
Esky ghosts. I have not heard that at all.
don't
I
know what
mean-
you're talking about.
They've started calling them the chili ghosts over in Europe, which is
Yeah.
just the dumbest. Because it just makes me think of a fucking ghost pepper.
What are you even
I
talking
don't
about?
know what you're talking about.
I could
Okay,
know
so-
You fuck balls.
Remember, okay, so Garrett hasn't had an internet, so he hasn't been able to watch EU LCS.
Yeah.
Ah,
You know, spooky ghosts. Little ghosts that
Yeah.
go
Twin shadows.
flail around.
Right.
Twin
Okay.
shadows, yes.
Yeah, Deficio started calling them the chili ghosts, and all the
Because
other
it's now
EU
getting-
casters were like, "You know, it's a spooky ghost, right? What are you doing?" And he's like, "Oh no, because it's on the Frost Queen's item now, so they're chilly." And so now they've started calling them chili ghosts.
No one else is.
Anyway.
So what do we call them in the OPL?
Esky ghosts.
Oh, okay. Great.
The casters don't actually call them that, but
I mean,
But they will. Our two
yeah, we're gonna make it
Challenger
happen.
Series casters.
I
are
got a
gonna call
message
them
face
SG
you time
guys.
tomorrow. Like, hey, dude, I got a great idea for you.
Yeah.
I mean, Ryo's like got a Korean name, so it's quite possible that he might speak Korean. Which, if you think, I mean, which is still a problem because you want to be able to coordinate across the whole team, not have to try and get your top laner to translate like midway through the game. But if you just think about, if you've got, I mean, he's quite good. If Bomb turns out to be pretty decent, well then Cookie can work with just like those two, like put a lot of pressure on both top and middle, and I guess that will kind of circumvent some of those language issues because I mean,
Yeah,
really,
as
if you,
long
in
as
the
they
end,
aim to shot call and communicate in
Yeah.
English rather than Korean, even if Korean is the majority language, they should be fine because. Without wanting to be a dick about it, it's not too unusual to learn English as a second language. It is very unusual for an Aussie to learn Korean as a second
Yeah, I
language.
imagine they do know like at
Yeah.
least a bit of English.
Yeah, like
The other thing
that
would
would certainly
be
be the expected result.
yeah. I mean, the other thing that Hellions did, apart from importing Koreans directly, would be that they're one of the two teams that have a gaming house as well.
Yeah.
So they're at least, even if there is a bit of language barriers, they're going to be working on it, and they'll find a way around it if there are language barriers. If they're not, then like that's even better. With no language barriers, tons of practice. Like Hellions could actually be a legitimate threat to the top spots in the OPL this season.
Yeah, absolutely.
well, maybe. I mean, I guess part of the thing is, I mean, they just got rid of a really top-notch player who, I mean, T-Guard is arguably the best, or either the best or the second best. Depends how you kind of view each of them. They got rid of this top-notch player. I mean, Denian's been around for a long time, but I wouldn't ever put him in the same category as T-Gun. So, yeah.
The difficult thing with like making calls about who's going to be competing for top spots is, I mean, every single team here, after we've talked about them, we've kind of gone, so we'll have to see how they do after that. They could be good. We'll have to see how this thing works out. And we haven't seen any of that yet. So it's like a part of me legitimately believes like Legacy, Chiefs, Direwolves, Trident, and Hellions could all be top teams. But in an 8-team league, you can't have 5 top teams, you know?
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see how it works out. And I'm really excited to see how it works out. Also, I'm excited to see which teams maybe start to come together after a couple of weeks to really punch through to that top 4 kind of bracket. But yeah, we'll have to see. We really will.
Yeah, I mean, I guess like Hellions sort of going into at the end of last year, the end of the season, it was like, okay, they look like they've kind of getting to the point where they might settle, and they've got a good sort of platform of players. Because Frey hasn't been around for very long. Roy finally got his shit sorted. So it's looking like, yeah, they're actually going to go somewhere, and then now it's essentially the roster has completely changed.
Yeah.
So I guess, I mean, obviously, if it turns out that Cookie and Bomb are like absolutely top-notch players, that changes the scenario. But I guess I look at some of the other changes, look at Legacy, and think, okay, they've just picked themselves a better team, and they're going to should be able to work well and should be able to go places. I don't know if I can really say that about Hellions.
Hey, Carrot, this might be a bit weird to ask on the podcast, but I know Steve was particularly close with T-Gun and Ryu, maybe? What is Steve still involved with Hellions?
That's a good question. I was hoping he'd be here to discuss, which he can't because his internet's died. But I mean, that would be the perfect question to ask him.
We're gonna
late last year when Immunity got kicked out, I asked him, you still going to be manager? He wasn't certain at the time. I haven't actually had a chance to ask him since then. So,
well, I feel like back then he said he was pretty committed to the players,
Yeah.
as a squad, but that's not. It's definitely not that squad anymore. So, who knows?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Maybe he's a package deal with T-Gun. Whoever picks up T-Gun gets
Steve. Yeah.
Yeah. I think those are really the most significant roster swaps to talk about. Sin Gaming did have a bit of one.
They got Cardred. That's big.
Yeah, they got Cardred, but Shuffer left, so.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, he joined
Um,
first and then he left.
Yeah. Yeah. So they've picked up Cardred, which is definitely good for them.
Solid pickup.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's been in he's been in the top 2 teams in Australia for how many years?
Yeah. I mean that'd obviously be a really good asset to them, but apart from that, it's there's not going to be huge changes. I don't think Sin Gaming are going to go very far. Uh, they've got some talent, but I mean like every team has some talent.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I honestly feel like other teams just have more talent straight up.
Well,
I mean, so
you think bottom of the pack? Bottom of the pack.
Bottom of the pack for
Uh,
me, I'd say, for Sin
Wow.
Gaming.
yeah.
Okay.
So
Well,
we'll-
given
I
that
don't feel like.
given that we've got 5 teams we think are going to be top of the pack, yeah. Everyone else.
okay, well let's do that. Let's do bottom 4 teams from your perspective. Go.
Oh shit, that's real hard. Okay, I'm gonna say Legacy Direwolves.
Bottom 4.
Bottom-
Bottom 4. Oh,
Bottom
bottom 4.
four.
No, Legacy is shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm just gonna say I'm gonna do top 4 because the
Okay,
ones
do
that
for
are
top.
top are gonna be bottom. It would be for me Legacy, Chiefs, Direwolves, Trident. It's gotta be. I think Hellions are gonna I do think they could get through the language barriers, but I think it'll take them quite a while, and that's time that all the other teams are gonna be capitalizing on. And then of course the bottom 4 are the other 4.
The other teams that
Yeah,
still exist.
the other guys. You
Um,
know, for those
yeah.
who don't know them, that's Avant, Sin Gaming, Hellions, and Infernum.
Infernum, who used to be Absolute.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
weren't aware of that. They played tonight and lost to Direwolves 2-0.
Hey, we're not talking about tonight's game.
Yeah,
No,
it's not.
that
It's not
didn't-
really a
that didn't
spoiler
happen.
though.
Yeah.
You guys didn't hear that.
They didn't hear me, all right. But in any case,
By
like,
the time the video comes out, it won't be a spoiler.
it'll-
Yeah.
it's fine. But yeah, no, my top 4 probably going to be a little bit similar. It's going to be Chiefs and Legacy for sure. Fighting for that top spot. Don't know which ones. And Direwolves, and I'm not going to put Trident there. And it's going to be Hellions are going to be up in the top 4 there. I don't think, Hellions might have a bit of the language barrier, but then again, Trident don't have Clear, and they're working with BMA, who I just don't think is anywhere near what Clear could have been. So I think maybe split 2, they'll jump up to top 4, but
Yep.
not now.
Alright.
Wombat.
Oh, it's so hard to call. So hard to call. I have no idea. I do think Chiefs are going to continue their dominance. I think they're going to continue to roll everyone because I don't think Swiffer leaving is as big of a deal as you guys made out. The gaming houses will be interesting to see if they make such a big difference. So it's only Legacy and Hellions. Is that correct? We don't know about
Yes.
anyone else.
Yeah, just Legacy and Hellions.
Yeah, so I mean,
Sorry,
obviously, it works wonders in, or it's a crucial part of the teams for the Koreans and the Americans and the Europeans. So, it might make a big deal. So Legacy could be enough to bump them to take games off the Chiefs, but I still think Chiefs are probably going to take it. Yeah, and I can't call who's going to come last or the bottom of the pack. Everyone looks stronger than. Without seeing them play against each other, anyway, don't know. I'm not calling it. I'm being a wuss.
Alrighty then. What have you
So,
got for us, Carrot?
Yeah, no, I'm with Pixie. I think Legacy, Direwolves, Chiefs, and Trident are probably the best ones. But yeah, I am curious to see how Hellions go. And yeah, I mean, you never know. I mean, Sin might work. I don't think so. I mean, Avant's always interesting. I mean, they were kind of okay. Maybe they'll get better. But yeah, it's hard to see. I mean, certainly Legacy and Chiefs look like they're clearly on top. Yeah, I suspect that those two will just dominate totally, and it'll be sort of quite a distant third and fourth by comparison.
actually, all right, I'm gonna make a slightly wussy prediction. I'm gonna call top 2, bottom 2, and middle 4. Is that all right?
All right.
So
Alright.
top 2, Legacy Chiefs.
Yep.
middle four, which I think some of you disagree with me on. I'm going to go Hellions, Sin, Direwolves, and Avant, and bottom two, Trident and Infernum. Just because I feel like Claire is a massive hit to Trident. I don't think they're going to take it in their stride.
Alrighty.
Adding BMA.
Do we want to, after all of that, do we maybe want to touch on like the new format of the OPL?
Yes.
How they're
probably
doing
should.
best of threes. So I'll run over that. So there's two groups in the OPL now, and they were seeded. So you're not going to have like the top four and then the bottom four in the two different groups. And it's like team one and then team two in two different groups, for example, like that. And then you play a best of three against everyone in your group twice, and then a best of three in the teams in the other group once. So you're going to be competing more with the people in your own group, but you're still going to be competing against everyone at some point. But the big thing about this is that it is going to best of threes, which is usually where we kind of suck internationally. We do pretty well in group stages when Legacy or Chiefs go to wildcard, get our hopes up, and then it's suddenly, oh, look, we just got 3-0'd by Turkey.
Hmm.
So having a best of three every single week for all the teams is going to do wonders for us. I hope.
Yeah.
Yeah, on the world stage, I really do hope it's going to help the boys to have a bit more practice and the ability to modify their play between games for sure.
It's also just better to watch. I mean, tonight it was the best of three, and sure, it was only 2 games, but I mean, it was a series that I got kind of invested in. I was thinking, like, are Infernum going to come back? Are they just going to get 2-0'd instead of like just 2 different matches where it's like one match is over and then like I've got to get reinvested into another team, another match, and like start caring about who's winning, who's losing. Like, there's not as much comeback in it, so it's just like, I mean, apart from it being better for the teams, it's so much better for the viewers as well.
Yeah, I do enjoy the longer series. When you do sit down and watch them, it is a bit more of investment. You know what I mean? If there's just one team you want to watch, you have to sit down. I guess it's only one night a week then instead of twice, but it's a longer time.
No,
It
I mean,
should
it's
be.
good. I like it. If you'd like watching a team, then you should be excited that there's more games that that team is playing in one sitting rather than you only get to watch one match per week. Like, it's so much better getting to
Yeah.
have a best of 3 to watch.
For sure, sure. Do we want to talk champions, Carrot? What are we up to?
We
Just
are up to, so I guess the other big things to talk about are we should probably go over just what is now being played, seeing as we've just been talking about the pro scene, and then after that there is of course the new champion coming out very soon. So do we want to talk about what is currently meta?
So I
I'm
guess
not
the
going
way
to
to
let
talk
Steve
about
start this one off because he's had no internet for 2 months.
yeah. So I mean, I guess that the reason why we're having this discussion is like, yeah, like
For Lee's benefit.
yeah, for my benefit. Like I literally, my internet died like a week before I went on holidays, like a week and a half, and then went on holidays for 3 weeks, and then come home and basically haven't had the internet for 2 weeks. So I have no idea what the heck's going on, and you guys are gonna fill me in. So let's talk about what's in meta, what we should be expecting to see in the OPL as well, champion wise.
So I guess it's also kind of like we could compare it to what we sort of expected to happen with the preseason changes. Like, whoa, hey, a bunch of 80 carry reworks. And did the champions that you thought were going to be strong, did they become strong? Is it what you thought you would see?
That's a good
And
question.
I think, yeah. So I mean,
Go for it.
I guess for myself, a lot of things happened and changed that I thought like would not happen, I guess. So like obviously the anti carries, a lot of them got stronger. Champions got to go in different roles. I thought that was going to happen, and it did. We're seeing Graves in the jungle, Graves on the top lane, and then
Seeing
Quinn
Quinn
mid
go on
lane.
top.
Yeah, Quinn jungle as well. I mean, we're seeing 2 to 3 AD carry teams in LPL. I think in the EU LCS, I think it happened as well. Um, But so I thought that was going to happen. I thought AD carries were going to get pretty popular. But then I also thought tanks were just going to fall completely out of favor because AD carries everywhere. They're going to just rip you to shreds. Why not go for a bruiser who, actually has a chance of killing an AD carry? And then also, of course, with AD carries everywhere, assassins who are going to be able to just take out those overpowered champions in 1 or 2 hits. That didn't happen much either. We're seeing the rise of a lot of tanky tanks coming out again.
Yeah, we're actually seeing a couple of interesting things. One, like you said, the rise of those real tanky tanks. I mean, Mundo has just been top tier right from the word go, even in preseason. But the other one we've seen a fucking huge variety, like absolutely massive. I mean, there's still a lot of popularity of a lot of those control mages. The Orianas, the Victors. That's all still there, definitely. We're seeing a bit of Corki mid. We're still seeing the likes of Zed, LeBlanc. We've seen a bit of Anivia. We're seeing Lysandra both in top lane and mid lane. The one that's thrown me for a loop has been Trundle support, though it makes total sense. And in that regard, actually, support has probably been the least changed role of all of them now. But, it's just more on the tanky, hard engage kind of side because you can get such powerful champions in all the other lanes, and sometimes you have something really tanky in the top and jungle, and you would rather take something like Janna. And sometimes you don't, and you'd rather take something like Braum. Or you also go with what fits with your team comp. And the only big change has been the addition of Trundle and reworked Poppy to that. So, and even then, that's a lot of variety. We're seeing a really nuts start to the season.
Junglers haven't really changed much either. It's still Elise, Rek'Sai, Lee Sin, Poppy's in there now, I guess, as well. But I mean,
yeah, actually, yeah, we
And
we are
she's a
seeing
little
a lot
bit
of the
broken
same.
as well. So I think Poppy will get nerfed.
So can I just go back to because anybody who knows me knows I love Trundle. You want to go and explain what it is about Trundle that's made him a worthwhile pick for support?
all right.
It's funny,
well,
we were talking about this
Pixie
earlier.
loves this.
I'll talk about it in a non-salty way. I don't hate Trundle support. I just find it kind of frustrating to play against, probably because I haven't played it enough and I haven't played against it enough. But basically, the biggest point of strength for him in lane comes from his pillar. So the moment to engage on Trundle is when his pillar is down. If Trundle uses his pillar correctly, so basically, let's say you're playing against Trundle, you want to bait out the pillar so that you can get a favorable trade. The only thing is with the way the pillar works, it's got some displacement and it has a slow, and it allows Trundle and his AD to get a favorable trade. So in baiting it out, you end up on the other end of an unfavorable trade so that you can then go into a favorable trade. And it just doesn't really work out for you. So the best thing you can do is really just sit back and play defensive against the Trundle. So what Trundle is providing in that regard is a whole ton of safety and a lot of kill pressure if someone missteps. If you are a little bit too forward and you get pillared behind you, it displaces you, it slows you, and that's a really big issue. And then, of course, later on in the game, Subjugate, his ultimate, just becomes a massive source of nuisance, really.
Especially in a world where super tank Mundo is a thing.
Exactly.
Like,
And
Mundo's ult is amazing.
Yeah, and this isn't a Trundle that's going in to build damage and all that jazz, like what we used to see on top lane Trundle. Like, this is a Trundle basically just taking it from whatever would normally be tanking up the AD, and then sitting by his AD with a bunch of extra stats. So he's not diving into the middle of the fight in somewhere where he needs those extra stats to survive in the same way that he used to. So really, he's just quite powerful all round, and I would be very surprised if he wasn't curbed just a little bit. It might even be something as simple as just scaling the slow on his pillar a little bit more harshly, so it's a lot lower at early levels. But we'll have to see what Riot's take on it is. But that's the long and short of why he's very strong right now, and we've seen him in some very capable hands, making some very fantastic plays.
And another thing, I mean, Trundle not so much because he's pretty much always in support, but flex picks have been humongous. I mean, they were pretty popular last season, but it's just every single pick that they make until the very end, you have no idea what lane it's going in. People will start off with Mundo. He can go top, he can go jungle. I mean, throw him in support if you want. You've got Gangplank, go mid, can go top. Lulu, mid,
Well,
top,
I
support.
would even argue
Poppy,
one of the
same
biggest.
things.
I think one of the biggest additions to that has been flex pick marksman, because now you can pick
Yes.
Graves and it can be top or jungle or AD, or Corki can go mid, or Kindred can sometimes even go bottom. Not amazingly, but we'll just forget about that one LCS game. There's a lot more flexibility in that regard now. Quinn has been seen top and jungle. Like, the fact that marksman can now be flex picks totally changes that whole thing up, because often you'd need to hold your last pick just for your marksman. So for all the strategy you had in there, at some point, you as the team picking last would still get the opportunity to get a favorable pick in that lane, and that's not the case anymore. So pick and ban has become a much, much more strategically deep process,
All right.
which is awesome.
What are some of the other maybe? I'm just thinking how many time we got 15 minutes, so actually maybe we
I
should move on.
really want to talk about Jin for 15 minutes.
Okay, all right, we'll talk about that then. All right, so we've got a brand new champion has been revealed, a marksman called Jin the Virtuoso, and yeah, I gotta say, well, my initial reaction was not amazed, but I think you've got a different opinion. So, do you want to? You just want to go straight into it, and why you think he's great, rather than go ability by ability?
I was amazed right off the bat. So, the way his kit works,
It's nice and simple.
yeah. So it is actually very simple. It is all geared towards one thing, and that is a finale of sorts. So, his passive is quite an interesting one. So he uses an ammo system kind of like Graves. Big difference is if it doesn't auto attack for a while, he doesn't refill the clip, and it's a 4-size clip. The last shot will always crit and will apply damage based on a portion of target's missing health. So you're all about setting up for the 4th shot, and honestly, it builds into his character very nicely, but that's a bit of a separate thing.
So
Second part of it is probably more significant. His crits deal less damage than normal, and he doesn't actually scale with attack speed. Instead, if he builds attack speed and crit chance items, he gains attack damage. And his crits give him a burst of movement based on attack speed.
You're
Hello?
Hello?
Yeah.
Keep going.
Yeah, so that's the way that works. So
Right. Sorry, I was thinking you'd make another, like, to keep talking.
No, sorry, just Smite said something. I thought maybe someone had cut out. Yeah, he's very much built around getting that fourth crit, getting that finale, and then he begins the next thing. He gets a burst of movement speed after finishing that off. Gives him a moment to reposition himself, allows him to start setting up for whatever the next kill is, whatever the next thing is, which is all his character. He is a performer. He is all about it's like any book or film or whatever. There's a build up and a climax, and his kit is very much built towards that, and then after that he begins on the next one, and it's really fantastic. And then all of his abilities do quite a similar thing. His Q is a grenade that bounces up to 4 times. We're seeing a bit of a numerical theme on other enemies. Killing an enemy with it causes the following bounces to deal extra damage. So you can use it on minions to get extra damage on champions. It's a nice lane harassing tool. His W has a passive built onto it. So his W is called Deadly Flourish. Enemy champions that have been struck by his basic attacks are marked for a few seconds. And then the active is Jin fires a massive long-range shot that damages all enemy minions and the first enemy champion in a target direction. If the champion he strikes has been marked, they're briefly rooted, and Jin gets movement speed. So that's where a lot of his base crowd control is going to come from. And he doesn't have a heap. It is a very long-range skill shot, though. On the whole, it also has to be said, Jin has a medium-ish attack range. His abilities give him a lot more extra range, and he is very slow-moving.
Yeah, and he has no dash.
Yeah,
which
not
is
at all.
Huge thing for a marksman.
E is captive audience, and so he places a trap on the ground that turns invisible. Enemy champions that walk over it trigger it, which reveals them and marks them And that Mark can apply the stun from his W, Deadly Flourish, if he uses that. And it also creates a large slowing zone. And after a brief pause, the trap will detonate and damages the enemy still inside it.
It's kind of like triggering an empowered Karma Q.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not an instant damage effect, but it shows him where you are, and it can be a way for him to find you with fog and things like that. Gives him some defensive capability for ganks.
It
It's
also
again like the champion as a whole. It's something that requires time. It's something that requires setup, and I want to get someone else to talk about his ultimate because
okay, I want
Wow.
to.
Yeah.
But just to briefly finish on the traps as well that he lays down. There's a passive on that is when you kill a champion, it's like you just triggered a trap on the champion too. So
yeah.
it'll
So
kind
that's
of tie
actually
into
it's something that didn't make it into the shipping of his release, but it is in the champion's kit. When you kill someone, it also detonates and
Yeah.
deals damage.
Like,
But,
if you
I mean-
kill somebody who has been hit by the trap, or just
No,
anybody?
just in general.
just anyone,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, right. Wow.
But it'll tie into this, which is his ultimate, which he points in a direction, and I think the camera even actually zooms out, or at least that's what
Yeah.
it looked like on the reveal, which is cool. And it plays this cool little choir music as you're doing this epic little grand curtain call, which is the name of the ultimate, and you get 4 shots, and they're incredibly long range, like probably Lux ult range, I guess, but they're not as fast or not as instantaneous. They're sort of slow moving, I guess. But you shoot them in this big long range, and they hit the first champion that they come into contact with, do a bunch of damage, and then, funnily enough, the 4th one and the final one does a whole lot of bonus damage.
Mega
And I think these
damage.
shots also slow people down. So the idea is
Yeah.
that like you fire off a bunch of shots during a team fight, like regularly with your auto attacks, and then you go back nice and safe and throw out your ultimate to sort of clean up as people are running away.
Yeah, so
Which
and
makes
this
sense.
just ties into his whole theme so much. It's all about patience and setup, and then a big payoff. You know, a climax, a finale. It's all in all of his auto attacks, and coordinating his bouncing grenades with his stuns, with his 4th critting auto attack is how he'll get kills in lane. In team fights, it'll be coordinating his marks. The marks from his traps, the marks from his auto attacks, and then curtain call. It's a kit that just meshes together so beautifully. Each of his abilities seems very, very powerful, but it is very much mitigated by an extreme lack of mobility. I would say he's the most immobile AD. I would argue more so than Varus.
Well, especially if he's channeling on that ultimate, like he's already
Exactly.
not moving very fast, and
Yeah,
then he has
but
to
the range
stand there and
itself-
shoot.
He's
Yeah, which is fine.
I mean, I don't think there's any doubt to it. Some people have been saying he might actually end up in the mid lane, but if he ends up being in the bottom lane, he is going to be the center of Protect the Jhin comps, and I think he
Yeah.
will be incredible at that, more so than something like Protect the Cog comps used to be. Just, yeah.
I
I
mean,
mean,
like
like
the cog, it's kind of different because Cogmore, you literally plant yourself and you have to sit there spewing out like 5
Yeah,
attacks
yeah.
per second. Jin, it's like you're not very mobile, but you only need to move in via 1 auto attack and then move out, and you got a few seconds to move in and fire another one because you don't care about attack speed.
Mm.
I mean, you do, but
Yeah,
it
but
doesn't
yeah,
factor into your. You're all about that like 1 shot at a time, not like get in there and try and do a bunch of shots and then like suddenly I've got to run away. Use my dash.
What he's always going to need in fights and skirmishes is time and space to plan out what he wants to do and execute properly. And I think that means to Protect the Jhin comps will be a bit more extreme than some Protect the Cog comps. But there are a lot of champions that are going to work super, super well with that.
Yeah, I
You
mean,
know
like
what
just
else-
the nature of his passive is going to give him a lot of like a lot of attack damage because any attack speed and crit chance gives him more AD. So, you think talking about he's immobile, but he's going to pack a lot of damage in the late
Yeah.
game. And the crits give him a burst of movement speed. So
Which scale off the
attack
crit as
speed,
well.
yeah. So
Mm.
and it's just based on attack speed. So it's I'll be interested to see how people actually build him item wise because although yes.
Yeah,
He doesn't get the attack
theoretically.
speed. The burst of movement speed when he crits will be really helpful, and it doesn't actually say he doesn't crit normally. So the last shot always crits, but that's not to say
it
that
does-
It's
doesn't-
part
it-
of the like
Yeah, it's
SA on his
slightly reduced
paragraph,
damage.
on his passive.
It's slightly reduced. It's not a full like hefty.
Sure,
Koenig.
but
It's
what you want
reduced,
is you
but-
want the presence of crits. So although
Yes.
he's mobile, if he's critting every shot, including the last one, and he's got a lot of and he's getting that burst of speed from attack speed, that it doesn't matter so much that he doesn't have a dash or something because he's just constantly, he can kite using his crits.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where,
It'll mean late game. He'll be
Yeah.
quite mobile. But,
Yeah.
laning
And
phase when it's actually going to matter.
No,
It's going to be
The intention with the really funky part of his passive that's all about what scales with what is that this champion would be fucking nuts if you could just build normal attack speed and crit chance on him because he'd just be sitting there going like bam, 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 bam with a really overloaded kit. So it's a way of mitigating that while still having you wanting to actually build regular items on Jhin and not just build fucking 5 infinity edges,
yeah.
So it might need a bit of tuning, but it is definitely a good way for them to execute that. The thing that I actually mentioned this a couple of days ago to you guys, but the thing that really struck me when I first saw Jhin is this is not a champion that could have come out pre-Marksman rework, I believe. And it just goes to show how much design space has been opened up by that rework. Having strong identity and having quite wildly different things that each marksman can do, like Caitlyn's ridiculous range when she gets a trap down, things like that. If we weren't in a game that had those sorts of things, I don't think we would have ever seen a champion like this.
I mean, I think even the precursor to this would be the change to Ashe last year. I think it was last year.
I think so.
Where she didn't. Now her thing is she doesn't crit at all. She just gets more base. So something like that. I mean, I guess it's opening, like it's making the potential for marksman less auto attack focused, because it used to be, well, essentially you build the same items for almost everybody except Corki and maybe Ezreal, depending how you build Ezreal. Where now I guess there's a lot more potential in terms of design concepts, so you can actually open things up, so you've got a variety of people who fill that carry role but actually feel very different.
Yeah, well, and I was talking about this the other day. I can't even remember who was talking about it too, but I mean, once upon a time, the design space for Marksman was actually really, really limited because he basically had 3 things. This is also a massively oversimplified version of this, but basically there were 3 things you could work with. They were attack range, attack damage, and attack speed.
Yep.
So you could have, a champion that had really high range and high damage and really low attack speed, and you could have one that was mid range and mid damage and high attack speed and all that kind of stuff, or low damage but mid range and high attack speed. And once you'd done every permutation of that, you started to run out of new things you could do, short of just straight up power creep. Now, yes, there's abilities in there, but most ADs have had abilities that need to interact with their auto attack somehow. And we started to see champions that push the limits of this design space. They started including things like movement speed. Kalista is the perfect example of that. When she first came out, people were like, this is fucking power creep. Yep. But now with the Marksman rework, no one looks at Kalista and goes, this champion is just expressly better than the other mid-range, mid-damage, mid-attack speed champions. Because the other champions now have other things that work with them, and things like Caitlyn, there are still reasons to pick the other long-range attack champions, even though Caitlyn's range is now expressly the longest. So by giving the marksman identity, they've expanded the design space and they work with more than just these flat-based concepts that are basically sliders that you can adjust for the base concept of an AD, and I think that's fantastic.
Now let's we got only 3 or 4 more minutes. What do people think of the actual kind of visuals and the rest of what we've seen so far of Jhin?
Fucking sexy.
I love it.
And with the swaggiest walk I've ever seen.
I like what they've done with his voice and his voice actor and voice interactions. So, I mean, the cool thing that'll stand out to you
in Carnage, I believe.
Yeah, that.
Yeah, okay, right. I was like, what the hell? Where's that coming from? Is that?
I was so confused, but that was Wombat actually.
Okay.
Sorry, nice. it was an accident. I was just trying to.
No, you should have gone through with it. That was the perfect time. I was like,
I'll do it again. I'll do it again.
Okay, right. Shh. Go. Okay, let's see.
In Carnage, I bloom like a flower in the dawn.
Okay, now
that's cool.
see how you hear his voice and you hear like a little bit of a choir in the background, and it feels all elegant and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what you hear when you're playing Jin. But if you're against Jin and he does like taunts or like yells out something when he does an ability, it sounds all grating and like it doesn't have the choir, and so he just sounds like it's just some crazy guy
Yeah,
saying all
right.
these stupid things. And you know, because that's like, if you don't know, the point of his character is that he's a serial killer who sees killing as an art, and he's the artist.
I
That's
did not know
absolutely-
that. That is awesome.
Okay, yeah.
And
So that's his thing.
virtuoso.
That's
And
terrifying.
that's exactly, you know, to him, he's doing a beautiful thing, but to everyone else, it's terrifying and very disturbing.
So he's like the pyro in Team Fortress.
Yeah, he's
Well, I
like
mean,
it's
yeah.
like Pyro crossed with Amon from Legend of Korra.
Okay. I'm
But
just going
he's
to say
also,
that, like that thing right there is like. So I probably haven't mentioned it on this show, but Graham McNeil he was a writer for Games Workshop, and he did a lot of their 40k and 30k stuff, and that concept is like so amazingly 40k. Like it's just
Yeah,
so
I did
friggin'
definitely
brutal.
think that.
And so
Harlequin, very Harlequin.
yeah, I'm just like stoked to see the Graham. I'm just guessing that he had something to do with that, but it seems much more brutal than most of what has been in League of Legends, which I'm all for. Raw 40k in League of Legends is good.
And
So
even his voice acting, it is very unnerving.
Yeah.
Like there's like some 20 minutes of recorded lines. Every single one of them just rides the line between something just really soft and harmonious and entrancing, and something just really unnerving, really creepy. And it's just, I don't know who the hell they got to do this, but they need to be paid more.
When he laughs, when Jin laughs, his laugh is really familiar to me. Like I don't know.
He actually kind of sounds like he's a guy who's in The Crow. I'm trying to. He's a Canadian actor. Anyway, there's a dude that there's a Hollywood guy who sounds quite a bit like this guy. Anyway,
Yeah, it's been on the tip of my tongue for like ever.
What do you guys think about like his ultimate, how it zooms out like that?
Mhm.
Imagine if they did that for a couple of other champions. Like one that comes to mind that makes a whole lot of sense would be Xerath. So you click R and it like pauses on your champion,
Yeah,
zooms
but
out to your
Xerath-
range, and you can
Xerath
just
doesn't
click.
have to point in a direction, right? He can throw out one ultimate to like over to the left-hand side as far as he can, and then to the right-hand side. So you
Yeah.
So they'd have to
zoom out
zoom
like
out.
twice
They
as
have to
far.
zoom out further, yeah. But then I
Like,
was
it
even
would
thinking
work.
like you could even do like Pantheon, zoom out like, you know what I mean? Some of those champs that
No, it doesn't quite
Mm.
work for them because, I
Yeah.
mean, for example, Xerath, you've got to be kind of accurate, whereas Jin, you just have to be like, you have to see down the line, I guess. So
Yeah.
you don't have to like see close to the ground. You just have to see the direction the guy is going.
Right. Yeah. I just think that one thing, like, I don't know if you guys have played Smite at all, but when you play as Thor in Smite, he's basically Pantheon, or he's similar to Pantheon. Anyway, his ultimate's basically Pant's ult. But you used to playing in third person, and you click Alt, and then it goes to like League of Legends sort of view, or even zoomed out a bit further, and then you click where you want to Alt, and then like follow your character in. You know, that sort of changing the visuals hasn't really been done too much in League of Legends besides scrolling on your mouse wheel when you accidentally scroll in and you want to scroll back out again.
Well, that's
Kind of a
actually
tricky
something
thing to do.
It's something, yeah, it's something you actually. It's quite an interesting thing to bring up though, because that's not an area Riot have looked much into, and I mean we're seeing them pushing the design envelope more and more and more. So I wouldn't be surprised if maybe we do start to see champions that actually change how you play the game visually in certain moments. That would certainly be very interesting. I mean, we saw a bit of that with the likes of Rek'Sai, for example, with the tremor sense. That was actually quite a different approach to how a champion and its controller literally sees the game. So actually, you raise up something very interesting there, Wombat, and I'm now
I think I played
very
Rek'Sai
excited.
once.
I bought Rek'Sai and hovered over her twice in Champion Select. That's as far as I got.
Yeah.
All right. Any final thoughts before we finish up?
No, I think I'm good, and I'm just really excited that OPL's finally back.
Yeah.
If you ever do play Jin while he's walking, have the Village People's YMCA playing.
Imagine if they did like an American Indian.
It's
version of
perfect.
him.
It's perfectly in step,
Yeah.
and it's a beautiful thing, really. You know, like there's nothing more satisfying than just nailing a bitch in the face, young man. There's no need to feel down. Like it's so great.
We need to play when he comes out. We need like a video of
No,
us playing.
there already is one.
Oh, is there? All right. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. It's just
Awesome.
it's a beautiful thing.
Cool. All right. Well, that finishes up for this episode number 113. Yeah, we'll get back to streaming once I've sorted out my internet. But we should be back on board for all cylinders firing in the next couple of weeks. So, and I just actually before we finish, I wanted to apologise for the lack of communication. It was all these internet issues that made it very hard to upload things and all the rest of it. So, but we should be all good to go for the rest of the year. Cool. And yeah, I guess we're done. So we'll see you again next week. Bye.
See ya.
Bye.
Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
We need to figure that out. All right, bye.
I couldn't remember what it was. I was going to say, like, good night. But, or, like, does he say ladies and gentlemen first? Oh, God.
Okay.